Episode 62, Your Marriage is a Baby. Welcome to the First Year Married podcast, where we get real about building the marriage of your dreams. I'm marriage coach Kayla Levin, and I take newly married and engaged women from anxious and insecure to confident and connected through practical tips, real-life inspiration, and more than a little self-awareness along the way. Hi ladies, welcome back. You know how sometimes you have something that's rolling around in your mind and you're trying to solve it, and then you hear something that you've heard over and over again, and all of a sudden it clicks and it's exactly the thing that you needed? Because that's what happened to me this week. So I'm so excited for this week's podcast. So my business coach, Stacey Boehman, was giving this analogy for all of her entrepreneurs that she coaches about their businesses. And I've heard her say it before, and I think she also got it from Brooke Castillo. So I've heard Brooke Castillo talk about this before. Even though I've heard it over and over again, this is the first time where it really clicked for me that this was an amazing metaphor and perspective shift for newlyweds as well. Okay, so I want to share it with you, and we're going to dive into this one today about how your marriage is really a baby. Okay, so here's how she's explaining it to business owners. You want to treat your business like a baby, which means that if a new baby is born, then you don't expect the baby to provide for you. You don't expect the baby to make you happy or to take care of you. You expect to invest in the baby, get the baby whatever the baby needs, right? If baby needs food, you get food, diapers, you get diapers, a new crib, whatever you need, you're going to get because it's a baby, and you know that that investment is required at that phase. You shouldn't be treating your new business as if it's supposed to take care of you. You don't cash out every dollar that you make, you reinvest it. Okay, so now you see why that's an analogy for a business coach. But I realized this time, hearing it already now for I don't know how many times I've heard it, probably easily 5 to 10 times, that this is so exactly what we need to think of as newlyweds also. In many cases, and I see this even more with women who dated for a long time looking to find that person, but I see it across the board. People enter their marriage and they're like, great. Now either they think it's him or they think the marriage itself should be making them happy. And if it's not making them happy, then something's gone wrong, right? Do you guys see the analogy? Because I think it's so cool. Your marriage is a baby. And of course it's a baby. You just got married, right? It's just started. And that's the thing. Your marriage isn't here to make you happy. I'm sorry, but it's not. Right? Just like if you had a brand new baby or a brand new business, you wouldn't be expecting it to take care of you, to make you happy, to perform for you. At least you shouldn't be, right? We would call that dysfunctional parenting if you're expecting the child to take care of your emotional needs. It feels like he is doing something wrong, but what's really happening is you're looking at the marriage and you're expecting it to have dividends, right? To take care of you. And if the marriage just happened, there isn't really a marriage yet, right? This is the whole concept. And I'll keep saying it over and over, but this whole concept behind First Year Married is to take the time to build that foundation. Because when you first get married, there is no foundation. You have to do it intentionally. You have to focus on it. That is how you get to the next place where you have a marriage, right? Just because you went through the ceremony, that's not enough. You need the time, you need the intention, you need the focus. John Gottman, who is a leading marriage researcher, describes the idea as an emotional bank account. And I think this is great. So basically he says, just like any bank account, you need to make deposits and sometimes there are withdrawals. And you can't avoid all withdrawals. They're going to happen, right? Sometimes somebody needs something, they want you to spend some time with them and you just simply can't, right? So that's going to happen. But that the way he sees it, and he's very scientific in the way he studies couples, and he studies the couples that stay together and the ones that get divorced. And what he came down to is that there's a 5-to-1 ratio. For a healthy relationship, we need 5 positive interactions for each 1 negative. It's like the negatives are heavier. Okay, they go further. It's a different currency, let's say. The other part of the emotional bank account, which is more relevant for newlyweds, is that it takes time to build up a balance. Okay, so let's start thinking about a bank account, an emotional bank account, and just take this metaphor a little further. I remember getting my very first ATM card. I don't know what I put on it, but it was probably like $40. If I were to go and take my new ATM card and buy something for $20, that would be a huge deal, right? Because that's half my account. I can only do that 2 times and my whole account is cleared, right? So $20 on a $40 account is a huge amount. Now, why do I only have $40? Because I just started investing. I just started making deposits. In that phase, maybe I didn't even know how much and how often I would be making money, right? Maybe it was more sporadic at that point. That's also a concern. How am I supposed to take money out of an account if I have no idea when any more is coming? It's exactly like this for a newlywed, right? You haven't had that much time to put deposits. And for all of you, whether you lived together before you were married or not, I would start the clock at the wedding ceremony, okay? Don't start the clock, I've been dating for 8 years, because the truth is that there is something different about marriage that you just don't have even if you've been living together. So start the clock here. How many positive deposits have I made into our emotional bank account? And understanding that can explain why sometimes a little withdrawal, right, a little negative interaction can feel so big because it's still new. You don't have that consistent paycheck coming in, right? You don't know that you're going to be getting a certain amount of positivity each week. You don't have a lot built up. You don't have savings here, right? And I find that a really helpful analogy because we can relax a little bit when we see ourselves being a little more reactive than we think we should be. But if you think about it according to this metaphor, it really makes a lot of sense to feel that way. And that's okay. This is the phase you're in your relationship. It's exactly how it's supposed to be right now. And as you continue to work on your relationship, you're just continuing to build beyond that, and you create that savings account, right? You have that foundation and that strength. Now, of course, that's only if you're actually intentionally focusing on building the relationship, but of course you all are. You're listening to this podcast. Okay, so this week I want you to remember this. It's okay if you aren't getting the dividends on your marriage yet. That comes later. And it really, really does. I'm telling you that at 10 years married, I'm literally happier every passing year in my marriage. But again, that comes with this attitude of investment. And the great news is it doesn't have to be major, dramatic, romantic actions. In fact, John Gottman talks about that also in his research, that it's better to have lots of small, he calls them turning toward actions, than a few large romantic gestures. Which I have to say this, and I don't want anyone to feel guilty, but I think that whenever we're talking about this turning toward and turning away, which is how he describes a positive interaction or a negative interaction, right? Someone's looking for some attention, someone's looking to have a discussion, someone's looking for some support, and they feel the other person is turning away. So again, I don't want to make anyone feel guilty, but it's very, very worthwhile to be noticing how the phone is being used in your relationship. How is it in your house? Are there any rules about it or boundaries about it for you? Just focus on yourself for now, because there is potential for a lot of small turning away actions, and our society hasn't really been able to come up with one clear, this is how phones should be used in the house, right? So something that might seem normal to you might not feel normal to your partner. It's just worth a discussion. At the bare minimum, my recommendation would be to treat the phone like another person who just walked in the room or actually called you, right? So you would at least excuse yourself from the current conversation. You might even explain like, hey, I'm going to be about 20 minutes. Let me take care of this thing, right? So I feel like that's a very good baseline because it maintains the humanity of the person that you are separating yourself from electronically in the moment. Okay. I also think that it's really critical when I give you concepts like this, so specifically talking about the phone or also talking about this emotional bank account, and whether you learn it here or somewhere else, we really have to be honest with ourselves and we have to be on to ourselves. Because what you're going to want to do, what's very normal and natural, is to relate this to him. Okay? At any point in this podcast, if you were like, yeah, but my husband's phone is the problem, or yeah, but if he was making any real gestures, romantic or not, or is he ever turning towards? He's always turning away. Any of that kind of thinking, and this is why I didn't bring it up till the end, because now hopefully it's recent enough you can reflect on, did you have any of those thoughts during this podcast episode? You got to get back to your lane, sweetheart. And that's how I say it to me too, right? Get back in your lane, sweetheart. It's okay that you got a little off track, but the truth is you can only change yourself. And all of those negative thoughts about how he's showing up, I promise you, go look. How does it make you feel when you think that way? How are you acting when you're thinking that way, right? When you're having those feelings. And then what result is that creating in a relationship? It's not going to be a good one. So it's not worth spending your time there. Doesn't mean you have to say it's not true. Doesn't mean you have to say 100 times, I believe my husband doesn't have a cell phone because that makes you feel better. No, that's lying to yourself, right? But of all the thoughts you can be thinking, get back in your lane. How are you doing with this material? How are you showing up in the relationship? Because remember, you're 50% of the relationship. You can't control someone else, but you certainly will affect him. And do you really think that you could possibly improve who you are and get to the next highest level of who you are and your own personal growth and not improve your marriage? Because I personally don't think that's possible. So I just want to encourage you all to stay with this idea. The marriage is new. The marriage is a baby. How can I take care of this marriage? I do want this marriage to grow up and to give me joy and security and love for the rest of my life. So what do I need to do now to be investing in it? All right, I'm going to be linking in the show notes the John Gottman piece on the emotional bank account, Stacey Boehman and Brooke Castillo's information if you want to look into any of that anymore, this idea of the business as a baby. In the meantime, if any of you are like, yes, my marriage is a baby, and I really want to make sure that I have all the tools and all the support that I need to get off on the right foot to sort of smooth out some of these issues that we're having already, then I think that by the time this hits the air, I hope I will still have a couple more spots for one-on-one coaching. Either way you can apply. Even if I don't, we can put you on a wait list. My clients generally work with me for 6 to 12 weeks, so we usually have new people coming up all the time and new spots opening up all the time. So the way to do that is to go to firstyearmarried.com, click on personal coaching, and we will take it from there. We'll get on a call and we'll talk and we'll chat and we'll get started. And all of you, I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you right back here next week. Bye-bye.